Elsewhere in Group B, Ecuador and Jamaica playing in Las Vegas. Ecuador actually went ahead in this game on an early own goal, 1-0. They doubled the lead just before the half. Kendry Paez converting a penalty to make it 2-0. Jamaica getting one back in the 54th minute through Mikel Antonio. That made it 2-1. Jamaica actually had a penalty shout at one point in the second half that was close but ultimately denied. Ecuador getting the third from Alan Minda in the first minute of second half stoppage time. Kendry Paez, the second youngest goal scorer ever in Copa America at just 17 years old. He, of course, is already set to head for Chelsea in the Premier League when he turns 18. So this game finishes 3-1, but it kind of hung in the balance on that penalty that was not called for Jamaica. There was a long review, Ali. What did you think? Should have been a penalty for Jamaica?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I feel like the arm wasn't really in a position that was natural. But yeah, the game goes on, and you just have to continue to play no matter what the decision is. I think the game would have maybe changed a little bit because at that point it was 2-1. Yeah. And I think Ecuador still had an average performance even though they won. So there were times that they could have been broken down. And that was a moment where the momentum could have changed. And I think Jamaica looked a bit disorganized. So, you know, that I don't know how much that would have changed in the offensive side of things. But yeah, they got 3 points. They solidified the win. They move on to the next game. And yeah, they can take some positives out of this and hope that they can, you know, play a little bit better the next round.
Penalty or not, Herc?
I don't know.
All right.
Every time we look at this play,
thanks for coming, Herc.
I have more doubts.
Yeah.
It's a reality because...
Well, then if it wasn't called on the field and you got doubts.
But does it hit his head first? Does it hit his hand first? And if you're not sure, you got to stay with the call that's on the field. But then why is his hand in that position, as Ali said? That's not a natural position to be in. And it's really difficult, and if I'm having difficulties and I'm not privy to the angles that the referee has, we're all sitting at home with the same amount of doubts. Certainly if you're Jamaican, you're thinking, man, I feel very hard done. You know, Jaime Holgrensen does the right thing of putting Demarai Gray on the field in the second half, completely changes things for Jamaica. It's 2-1 off a Mikel Antonio goal, and you're thinking things are turning. Certainly that Alan Franco handball, if it's called, and I have my doubts, you know, call it. I don't say anything. Yeah, right. It's probably the right call. It's 2-2 if they make that game on with, you know, about 18 minutes to play. This is a different game, and Ecuador put themselves in a hole. They allowed Jamaica to come back into this. It wasn't until late in the game that they end up killing off the game, and it's 3-1, but very much so, kind of how Venezuela today started retracting, trying to hold, put themselves into a shell, and were absorbing a lot of pressure. And to Jamaica's credit, they did well, but it was too little too late. But if you're asking me if it's a handball, I seriously have my doubts. I feel hard done for the Jamaicans.
Yeah, I'll tell you what the problem was for Jamaica today is that Cristian Garay, the referee from Chile, the referee for this match, was not the referee for the Venezuela match and vice versa.
Yes.
Because had it been the referee from the Venezuela-Mexico match, that would have been a penalty because the penalty that was given to Mexico was eerily similar in terms of the arm position up here. And if it felt like a handball, it seemed like a handball, and it's one of those where I think referees find it all too comfortable to sort of hide in the loops of is it clear and obvious, the threshold, so on and so forth. I understand what you're saying, Herc, but you must admit, when you see it, it kind of feels it feels like a handball. And if you're Jamaica, and you know what else? The reaction from Ecuadorian players, the reaction from Alan Franco, who was trying to say, I was covering my face. No, you weren't, bro. No, you weren't. That hand was out here. Huh? I sort of tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Alan Franco was not telling the truth. That hand was out here.
So is the soccer brother Bible?
Right here, baby. I don't know. I haven't been to court, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a while. Been a while. What about what Ali says, that Ecuador were, at the end of the day, average, even though they get the win?
Yeah, I think they were disappointing, to be honest with you, because they go up 2-0, and you're thinking, here, they take off. And instead, man, they lost their shape, they lost their structure, they lost the ball, they lost energy, they lost intensity. Physically, they were struggling. It was noticeable that Ecuador was struggling. And that, I thought, was surprising because Jamaica had every reason to put their heads down and their shoulders down and for Ecuador to really dominate and control the game. And it wasn't the case. It was Jamaica that gave it a change of pace. That early goal in the second half obviously helps things because then now it allows them to believe. And there was no reaction from Ecuador. It wasn't, look, if you didn't watch this game, you're thinking 3-1 Ecuador, that's just the way that it should have been. No, it wasn't. Ecuador were hanging on, and I mean hanging on, and eventually they get a third goal that puts it away. But it wasn't the reaction that I was expecting from Ecuador, certainly after going up 2-0. And now what they will take out of this match is, hey, it's 3 points, and now we play our hearts out against Mexico, and whoever wins is going to go through, and whoever doesn't, out.
To Ali's point about Ecuador looking mediocre or average, when's the last time you've seen Jamaica outpossess a team?
Great point.
56 to 44. And how vulnerable did Ecuador look on set pieces? Every corner kick was dangerous across the face of the goal, was a play that you thought either a penalty or a shot on goal. Like, they were really struggling with the physicality of Jamaica. I came away with more doubts with Ecuador in this game.
What did you see from Ecuador, Ali, in this match where they win 3-1 over Jamaica?
I mean, they have so many technical players, but, you know, the decision-making, I feel like, was really poor, especially in the final third. And Ali touched on that a little bit, but the consistency has to be there. And it was very inconsistent today, and they were very hopeful towards the end and trying to hang on. And it just has to be better if you really want to be, you know, final contenders in this tournament and in this league. And so they have to perform better. And against a Jamaican team like this, where, you know, they go up 2-0 at the beginning, although 2-0 is a really difficult lead to keep and hold on to, they have to perform better.
They obviously didn't have Ener Valencia in this game, but one guy they do have is Caicedo.
Yeah.
And I know some of it is the transfer fee, but when you play at a big club with a big transfer fee like that, I expect you to be not just good, but frankly dominant at this level. I mean, what do you think of his play, what we've seen so far in the two games?
And you should be dominant against Jamaica if you're Moises Caicedo. And no disrespect to the Jamaican players, but it's just a statement of fact that you're having a guy who is playing at the highest level possible with one of the most important clubs in the world. You talk the transfer fee and whatever you want to make of that conversation, but there's a certain level of expectation. And one of the things that made Moises Caicedo the player that Chelsea thought he was going to be is the work rate and the intensity with which he plays the game and how much ground he covers in the midfield. What we saw from him today against Jamaica in the second half, he is dragging. He's slow jogging it. He's second to the ball. He's second to the challenges. And if Moises Caicedo, who is to some degree the face of this Ecuadorian national team, is not driving this team forward with his willingness to win challenges, with his willingness to recover possession and then find a ball forward, then they get in trouble because around him it isn't a bunch of workers. That's why Carlos Grueso has to come on the field late in the match, is because I imagine that Ecuador looks at it from the sidelines and says, we need help in the midfield, and it's not something that they would have expected because Moises Caicedo, to your point, should be dominating, at the very least, the opposition that he had today.